runway first. These were people. Those shoes got to the bottom.
When a deep-sea drone descended into the Titanic's wreck in 2025, the mission was meant to be routine. But minutes into the dive, its sensors detected a rhythmic pulse coming from deep inside the ship, a steady mechanical heartbeat no one could explain.
They can also receive sound and convert it into the voltage.
As the footage streamed to the surface, stunned scientists realized something inside the Titanic was still moving after 113 years. What they found next left even the most seasoned experts horrified. The drone that changed everything. In early 2025, a team of scientists gathered on the deck of the research vessel Alethea, surrounded by freezing mist and the dark waves of the North Atlantic. They were part of Project Abyssal Echo, a collaboration between oceanographers, engineers, and AI researchers determined to capture the clearest images ever taken of the Titanic. The expedition was supposed to be routine, but nobody expected what came next. At the center of their operation was Nereus X, a new underwater drone unlike anything used before. It was built from pressure-resistant titanium and equipped with AI that could think for itself when navigating unpredictable terrain. Its sensors were sensitive enough to detect vibrations smaller than a human heartbeat. The goal was simple. The team wanted to build a complete 3D map of the Titanic's decaying structure to study how the wreck was collapsing. The first descent went smoothly. The drone moved silently through the darkness, sending back crystal-clear images of rusted corridors and fallen beams. Then, halfway through the second dive, something changed. The sonar started showing rhythmic pulses deep inside the stern section of the ship. The pulses came exactly every 3 seconds. At first, the control room assumed it was background noise, or a reflection of the drone's own signal. But when the same pattern kept repeating for 9 straight hours, the mood shifted from calm to uneasy. Technicians tried recalibrating the sonar, but the readings remained identical. The signal wasn't random. It wasn't coming from the water. It was coming from inside the Titanic. When they played the sound through the speakers, it wasn't static or feedback. It was a steady, soft thump, like a heartbeat echoing through metal. One of the engineers removed his headset and whispered, "It's like something alive is down there." No one laughed. The room went quiet except for the drone's faint audio feed. Every pair of eyes stared at the monitor, where green waves on the screen rose and fell in perfect rhythm. The drone's AI recalculated its route and began moving toward the source. As it descended deeper, its lights cut through a cloud of silt, revealing dark passageways that no human had ever seen. The scientists knew the Titanic was fragile. Even small vibrations could cause walls to collapse. Every meter forward increased the risk of losing the drone forever. Still, they couldn't look away. Something inside that ship was moving, and they had to know what it was. By the time Nereus X reached the stern corridor, the air on the ship had changed. The crew wasn't talking anymore. They were just watching, frozen in a mix of fear and fascination. What began as a data-gathering mission had turned into a haunting confrontation with the past. Guided by its AI, Nereus X advanced slowly toward the exact source of the sound, passing through twisted metal and drifting debris until its lights revealed a sealed door that no one had ever opened. The team would soon call it the Forbidden Chamber. The Forbidden Chamber. No one spoke as the Nereus X drone followed the pattern through the wreck. The signal was leading it into the stern section near the officers' quarters, a part of the ship that had been sealed by metal debris since the original 1985 expedition. It was an area that no diver or camera had ever entered. The team watched every movement on their screens, tense and alert. If the drone's lights failed, or its frame got caught, they would lose it forever. As Nereus X advanced, its sonar mapped what looked like a large, intact structure. The image cleared and revealed a solid metal doorway. Unlike the rest of the rusted ship, this door still looked strong. Its surface was coated in thick manganese oxide, but its shape was perfectly preserved. The operators zoomed in and checked the pressure readings. The chamber behind it seemed airtight. No one could understand how that was possible after more than a century underwater. The mission lead gave the order to open it. The drone extended its mechanical arm and pressed against the brass handle. The handle moved. A loud metallic creak filled the room as the door slowly gave way. Behind it was a dark void that swallowed the drone's floodlight. When the camera adjusted, the feed showed something none of them expected. A human skeleton sat in a chair in the middle of the chamber. The bones were intact. The jawbone hung open, the skull tilted forward as if frozen in the middle of a breath. The scene was so well preserved that for a moment, the crew thought it was a mannequin or artifact. Then someone pointed out the details. The tattered remains of fabric still clung to the bones. A boot rested under the chair, and in the right hand, the figure held a gold pocket watch. The watch was not corroded. It reflected the drone's light, and its glass face was clear. The lead technician leaned closer to the monitor. The watch's second hand was moving. It was ticking. The room erupted in disbelief. Some thought it was a visual glitch. Others ran diagnostic checks to confirm. But the drone's vibration sensors picked up a steady oscillation from the object. It was mechanical movement, with no external power source. The temperature inside the chamber was measured and found to be slightly warmer than the surrounding areas. Condensation appeared and vanished rhythmically on the wall in sync with the ticking. Every person in the control room went still. Some backed away from the monitors. One researcher whispered, "That's not possible." The captain told them to keep recording. They all understood what they were seeing. The Titanic had been silent for more than 100 years, yet something inside it was still moving. When the footage reached land, researchers started to compare the location of the chamber to old expedition maps. What they found linked the discovery to a section that Robert Ballard himself had never revealed to the public. Ballard's secret returns. Robert Ballard was the oceanographer who had first discovered the Titanic in 1985. His work had made him a legend in marine exploration. Yet, as the scientists soon learned, Ballard's own expedition logs were not as complete as history suggested. When the data from Nereus X was compared to Ballard's original maps, something strange appeared. Several coordinates from his 1985 charts were missing. Entire sections of the stern, including the exact area where the new drone had found the sealed room, were left blank. At first, some thought it was a simple technical issue from older equipment. But then the team noticed abrupt breaks in the sonar lines, as if certain areas had been deliberately cut out. A few hours later, one of the researchers found a digital copy of a rare interview Ballard had given years ago. In it, he said, "Some things were too human to show." Most people had dismissed that as a vague comment about the remains of victims, but in the light of the new discovery, those words took on a darker meaning. The crew exchanged uneasy looks. One of them whispered, "What did he really see down there?" Historians who joined the review team soon uncovered more. Ballard's personal notebooks, stored in a naval archive, included a short but alarming entry. It mentioned an intact cabin with mechanical resonance. That phrase didn't appear in any official report. The notebook was dated only 2 days before his public announcement of the wreck. None of the scientists on his original expedition had ever spoken of such a find. The mission leader, visibly nervous, requested all surviving members of Ballard's 1985 crew be contacted. 2 former technicians agreed to talk. Both confirmed that after the Titanic's discovery, the U.S. Navy had held a series of closed briefings. They said Ballard had been ordered to suspend exploration of a certain section. One technician recalled that Ballard argued with military officials over it. Another remembered him coming back to the ship pale and shaken, refusing to describe what he had just seen. The 2025 team sat around the monitor room late into the night, staring at the sonar images of the chamber. Anxiety filled the air. Some refused to speak. Others quietly suggested that Ballard's silence had nothing to do with respect for the dead. They believed he had been forced to keep quiet about something he found that was still active inside the ship. One retired member of the old expedition told a journalist years later, "He didn't find a grave. He found something that shouldn't have been working." That sentence spread through the 2025 crew like a chill. To uncover what Ballard may have seen, the team began to reanalyze their drone footage frame by frame, desperate to find a pattern behind the impossible movement that refused to stop. Evidence of motion. Everyone stared at the monitors showing the sealed chamber and the gold watch clutched in the skeletal hand. No one spoke. The rhythmic ticking that came through the speakers was too precise to ignore. It wasn't interference. It wasn't random. It sounded like something mechanical was still working inside the Titanic. To confirm what they were hearing, the technicians slowed the footage frame by frame. What appeared next left the entire crew speechless. The internal balance wheel of the watch was moving back and forth in perfect rhythm. It wasn't a trick of the light or distortion from the camera. It was mechanical oscillation, the same type used in 19th century marine chronometers to keep precise time at sea. The motion followed an exact mathematical pattern, steady and consistent. The lead engineer explained that for a watch to move like that, it would need either a constant power source or an ongoing chemical reaction. Neither was possible at that depth. There was no oxygen, no battery, and no sunlight. Everything should have corroded decades ago. Yet, the watch was ticking as if it had been wound yesterday. The team replayed the section multiple times. Each time, the same pattern appeared. The reaction on board changed from fascination to fear. Several crew members whispered that they didn't want to look anymore. Scientists immediately started proposing explanations. The first idea was that a sealed chemical process inside the chamber was generating enough energy to move the mechanism. The heat difference between the air pocket and the surrounding water could create slow thermal expansion that mimicked clock movement. Another theory suggested the watch might be reacting to weak magnetic currents still present in the ship's iron hull. Even after a century, the Titanic's metal structure still held traces of magnetism from the Earth's field, which could affect delicate metallic parts in small, periodic motions. A third explanation focused on the bacteria known as Halomonas titanici. These microorganisms feed on iron and create expanding and contracting rust formations called rusticles. They grow in cycles, and their movements can produce gentle vibrations. Some experts suggested that colonies of this bacteria might be living on the inner parts of the watch, causing the steady back-and-forth motion that looked like a working timepiece. The footage analysis continued late into the night. While examining the audio recordings, one of the sound engineers noticed something else. There was a low-frequency hum that followed the same pattern as the ticking. It wasn't just mechanical, it sounded like a pulse. When the drone performed another sonar sweep, the sound shifted slightly in tone, almost as if it were responding to the signal. That small change caused panic in the control room. The sonar operator took off his headset and said his ears were ringing. Another technician claimed she heard faint clicking noises underneath the pulse, like a response from inside the wreck. The mission leader ordered a full systems check to make sure no one was hallucinating from fatigue or stress. Everything came back normal. The readings were real. The scientists could not agree on what they were witnessing. Some believed it was simply resonance, a harmless vibration caused by overlapping frequencies. Others were convinced it was evidence that a self-contained mechanism inside the ship was still active. No one dared to make a final conclusion. The silence in the room returned, heavier than before. Every eye stayed locked on the screen as the watch continued to tick, one beat at a time. The feeling among the crew shifted from curiosity to dread. Whatever was moving inside the Titanic had been doing so for more than a century, and no one could explain how or why. The desperate search for answers pushed the investigators to reopen Robert Ballard's archived data from 1985, hoping that somewhere in those forgotten files there might be a record of the same impossible motion. Ballard's hidden files. A group of investigative journalists had reached out to the expedition with shocking information about Robert Ballard's 1985 mission. The scientists gathered around to listen as the message was read aloud. The documents were recently declassified by the United States Navy. They revealed that Ballard's famous discovery of the Titanic had been a secondary mission. The main objective had been to locate and inspect two nuclear submarines that had sunk during the Cold War. The Titanic expedition had been used as a public cover. No one on the Alethea spoke for several minutes. The idea that the original discovery had been part of a classified operation stunned them. Among the documents were references to anomalous signal returns recorded near the Titanic wreck during Ballard's mission. Those records had been blacked out for decades. The newly released files confirmed that the signals were real but offered no explanation. They were listed as unresolved data anomalies. That phrase alone made the current team uneasy. The leader of the 2025 mission realized that the same rhythmic motion their drone had detected might not be new. It might have been noticed 40 years earlier and hidden from the public. Two former technicians from Ballard's original crew agreed to speak with a journalist under anonymity. Both described moments during the 1985 expedition when photographs and sonar recordings were taken away by naval officers. One of them recalled hearing Ballard arguing with a Navy representative in a closed meeting. When asked later about it, Ballard had only said, "It is better not to open every door." The new team studied the documents line by line. In one heavily censored memo, a single surviving sentence read, "Non-geological vibration source detected in wreck cavity." Those words sent chills through the control room. Every scientist knew exactly what that meant. A vibration source that was not geological meant it wasn't from movement of rock or the seafloor. It was something mechanical, something made by human hands, and it was inside the Titanic. Some researchers on board began to suspect that Ballard's crew had discovered the same motion, but were ordered to suppress it. Others believed the Navy may have mistaken the anomaly for an active Cold War device, perhaps a signal beacon or surveillance equipment that had somehow been lost on the ocean floor. Either explanation suggested that the truth had been buried for national security reasons. As the story spread, conspiracy theorists seized on the new evidence. They claimed the Titanic had been carrying a secret cargo disguised as luxury goods. Online forums exploded with speculation that a prototype energy source or advanced navigation system had been on board and was still partially functional. The Alethea's team avoided commenting publicly, but in private, they were shaken. The possibility that the wreck housed an undisclosed technology changed everything they thought they knew about the disaster. Late that night, the mission leader called for another review of the drone footage. The scientists were tense and quiet, their faces lit by the cold glow of the monitors. Every few seconds, the same mechanical rhythm appeared on the screen. No one could explain how it was still active, but now they understood why Ballard had gone silent. The truth had been there all along, buried under layers of secrecy. Modern imaging soon revealed that the object held by the skeletal figure was not a simple watch after all. It was far more complex than anyone had imagined. The object in the hand. The moment the new scan loaded, the entire control room went silent. The image was sharper than anything they had seen before. The gold watch in the skeleton's hand was not a simple timepiece. The AI system DeepScan X had analyzed every pixel of the footage, rebuilding the image with incredible precision. What everyone had once thought was corrosion on the armrest of the chair now looked intentional. Thin metallic wires extended from the watch into the armrest, forming a pattern that was too even and too symmetrical to be decay. The lead engineer leaned forward, staring at the screen. "Those aren't cracks," he said quietly. "Those are circuits." The team zoomed in. The fine lines embedded in the metal weren't random. They were aligned with mathematical precision, resembling a primitive circuit layout. The realization made the room tense. Whatever this device was, it was far beyond the level of technology expected on a ship built in 1912. To be sure, metallurgists were called in to examine the footage frame by frame. After several hours, they concluded that the structure resembled a prototype navigational chronometer, a mechanical timekeeping device once used to measure longitude at sea. However, this one appeared enhanced with an early form of electrical resonance, which is the ability of a system to vibrate at a specific frequency. Modern atomic clocks use resonance to stay perfectly synchronized, but that technology did not exist at the time the Titanic sailed. The room filled with uneasy murmurs. Someone muttered, "How could this even be possible?" The readings became even stranger when the engineers measured the electromagnetic output. The device was emitting a weak but steady signal. It wasn't random static. It was patterned, rhythmic, and continuous. It never faded or fluctuated, even when the drone changed position. The first assumption was interference from the drone itself, but the sensors proved otherwise. The signal was coming directly from the object. The data showed it had been active the entire time the drone was inside the chamber. To confirm its origin, forensic historians checked the Titanic's cargo manifests. The lists mentioned luxury goods, navigation tools, and electrical equipment, but nothing resembling an experimental chronometer with wiring or electrical components. That absence made the discovery more disturbing. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't supposed to be there. A heated debate broke out on the ship. Some scientists believed the object might have been a private invention brought aboard by a wealthy passenger for testing. Others believed it was something else entirely. The arguments grew louder until the mission director ordered everyone to calm down. Then the lead engineer proposed a single theory that changed the entire tone of the discussion. He explained that the signal's frequency matched a known range once used for early maritime communication. Long before modern radio was developed, researchers had experimented with using low-frequency resonance to send signals through seawater. Those tests were never completed because the technology was unstable and could interfere with compasses and magnetic instruments. The team realized what this meant. The object wasn't just a timekeeper, it was a transmitter, an experimental signal generator built to emit a low-frequency wave. If that was true, the Titanic might have been secretly carrying a prototype communication system that was never recorded in its official documents. The discoveries suggested that someone had been using the ship's maiden voyage as a test platform for a classified or private project. Worse, the device could still be working. The rhythmic pulse detected by the drone might be the remnants of a transmission that had never stopped. The engineers calculated what that meant in physical terms. The constant vibration from the device could be affecting the surrounding wreckage. Over decades, that weak but continuous resonance might have accelerated the decay of the ship's metal structure. It could also have caused interference with sonar readings during past expeditions, which might explain why earlier scans of the Titanic always produced strange distortions. The team grew quiet as the implications sank in. If the reaction inside the device intensified, or if the sonar from another drone triggered a change in the signal, it could destabilize the air pocket around the chamber. That could lead to a sudden release of hydrogen or methane gas trapped inside the wreck. In simple terms, if anyone disturbed it, the result could be catastrophic. The more they studied the data, the clearer it became that the object was not passive. It was still performing a function. The rhythmic signal, though faint, could be maintaining synchronization with something that no longer existed, a partner transmitter or a base station that had once been part of an experiment. Whatever its true purpose had been, it was now unstable and unpredictable. The scientists on the Alethea sat in stunned silence. The air in the control room felt heavy. No one spoke for several minutes. A few of them turned off their monitors and walked out, visibly shaken. For the first time, they were afraid not of the depth or the pressure, but of what they might have awakened. Later, one researcher remembered a quote from Robert Ballard that resurfaced during the investigation. Ballard had once said, "I knew it was still running even back then. Some things down there never stopped." When asked what he meant, he had refused to elaborate, only saying, "You'll understand when you listen closely. The ship is still talking." The team finally understood what he meant. The Titanic was not silent. It was still alive in a way no one had ever imagined. For the first time since the mission began, the crew decided to stop all further dives. None of them wanted to find out what might happen if that transmitter ever woke up completely. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.